really love is to be a stand for somebody else, to have an experience of peace, love, and joy for themselves.
Interesting. What is the foundation of alignment?
Yes, it's an interesting question. And let's just start with the opposite of how this is, right? How we actually live our lives. And the way people actually live our lives is we live in a have-to-be way. So we have to start with, I need a job, I want a particular job, or I want a particular title, or I'm looking for particular material stuff, or I need this stuff, like money, right? For example, so I can do something so that I can be somebody, right? So for example, I need a big job, fancy job, so that I can do the fancy house and everything for my family, so I can be a good dad, right? This is kind of how we tend to live our lives. And so the foundation of alignment is really not starting with I need to have the big fancy job with a high salary, or I need to have a spouse, I need to have a family, right? So that I can be loving. It's to start out with the be. So you're starting out with who I am is this. Then I'm going to do what there is to do, and I'm going to have a result. So the foundation for me, rather than to have something, to do something, to be somebody, we start out with the being. The being is the foundation. And then you do what there is to do, and then you have a result. And this goes back to the Viktor Frankl stuff, where he talked in the concentration camp about a lot of people. What they were doing is that they said, I need to have food so I can do the work to survive, so that I can be alive, or I can be whatever I was planning to be. So they stole the food. So the have became important. The other people, they said, who I am is compassion. Who I am is generosity. What there is to do then is to help those who are suffering. And then I'll have a result. And in the end, both groups had the same result. One of them was controlled by their environment, and the other was controlled by their own declaration. So I call the foundation of alignment being. And that's where it starts. Now, that's a very complicated thing to explain because it gets into consciousness, which is a very complicated topic. And scientists all over the world are debating about this, and they still don't even have a definition yet. You have competing definitions, and I expect that for a very long time. We'll have competing definitions. We'll have multiple definitions. Nobody will ever agree. A materialist will write a definition so that they can prove that it's in your brain, or in your brain, it's material. And a non-materialist will write it in a way that you can't really figure it out, and they'll both argue forever, and nobody will ever know who's right. So what I do is I just say, okay, I don't know. I have the experience of this, so I'm going to assume it exists because I have the experience of it. If the scientists ever figure it out, we'll go with that. In the meantime, we as a human species have had a long history, and I don't care if you're Christian or you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're Buddhist, right, or Hindu, we all have the experience of something along the lines of something that's like soul. I don't necessarily need to call it soul, but there's something there. And if you strip away everything else, then I assume that consciousness will exude something. And that's what I call being. And when we see it in that Viktor Frankl example, it comes out in the form of something that we call generosity or something we call compassion. So I've actually gone ahead and defined 35 of those in a way that it's around being. And then you have the ability to take it on and then be it. And that's when you have the possibility of a lot of self-discovery. And then it also helps guide your decision-making and problem-solving. And now courage makes sense, because if who I am is compassion and I'm in that situation that Viktor Frankl observed, it takes courage to stay that and to say, I'm going to give my food, knowing that I might die, but it's the right thing to do because it's who I am, and I'm staying aligned despite the situation or circumstances. I'm not going to allow the situation to control who I am.
Okay, interesting. So, how do you use it?
Well, it's really cool because the easy way to explain it is most of us are like fish going down a river. We don't even know it. We have culture, we have family traditions, we have all this stuff. We're all going in a direction. And we just kind of swim along, and we don't recognize that there's a current. It's a slow-moving river, it's a current. And when we say, who I'm going to be is, then sometimes we have to turn right, and we have to turn left, and we start to feel that current. Go, oh, wait a minute. And we start making all this discovery about who we are. about what's there, about all of the habits we have in our brain, right? It's like, for example, if who you decide to be, right, is generosity, well, then you'll start seeing all the places you're not generous. It's very much like a person who goes from being eating meat to being a vegetarian. They realize all the things in meat that they can't have, all the things that they're going to miss. Oh, I can't have this, I can't have this. But they didn't notice before because it was just normal. They start to notice because they decided to make a change. In this case, we're doing the same, except it's an internal thing, right? This is who I am. So you start to notice when you say who I'm going to be is peace, and you start to notice all the fights that you have inside of yourself. You start to notice all the fights you have with other people. You start to notice all the places that you don't have peace. And that's letting you know these habits that your brain and your body have built up over your whole life that you just never saw before. And all those things are holding you out of alignment. It's very much like the person who decides to lose weight. And then they realize that all of their habits that they have give them lots of excuses not to exercise and not to eat right. Yeah, because, I go with my friends all the time and we go out and we have beers every Friday night. Do I have to give that up? Well, maybe you at least have to change the beer, maybe, if you're going to really commit to losing weight. Or, you know what, I'm playing video games, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. I don't have time to run. Okay, it's a habit you got to change. But you didn't notice it before. You made the declaration and you decided to go forward in a different direction. So that's how you use the being, is you really start honing and refining all the habits in your life so that you can then have a life that's aligned. So you can go forward in a way that you declare.
Yeah, so it's something which is not fluid. That's what I understand. But this the relation with the environment, if you are conscious about it, it's enough to be honest with yourself, right? It's more like that. So to decide to choose of what you want to be, or how to give importance of being than having, it's more about being conscious, and also about making choices, and it's also about being honest with oneself.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And the environment will unavoidably be a bit abrasive. But there's a good part of that.
But there is one problem which I think often we have, is that we always want to, we always have a goal, right? Even if it's about being and not being having, we always put some goal of what is actually being. If I am courage, then courage has some goal. If I reach to that, that means that I'm satisfied of what I choose to be. So is it good or it's bad to have that?
So it's not really a goal in this sense. Like, for example, if I choose love, right, and I choose it because the definition is quite interesting. So really, love is to be a stand for somebody else, to have an experience of peace, love, and joy for themselves. So how do you do that perfectly? How do you ever achieve that as a goal? It's in the end, what it is you have an interaction with your child. And how do I be a stand for this? I think a lot of parents understand this difficulty. How do I make sure that I'm being a stand for my child in a way that they're going to have a great life, whatever great life means for them? And this isn't a fixed thing, right? It's maybe you have to be harsh with the child in order to get there. Maybe you have to be generous. Maybe you have to be more understanding. There's a billion ways to do it, and there's not a right answer. And by the way, the goal of this isn't to give you a right answer. The goal of this is that you're thinking about it in that way, because what you're doing is you're catching yourself when you're not aligned. When you're going, you know what? My son or my daughter pushed my button, and I'm not reacting in their best interest. I'm reacting because I'm angry. Right? That's the unaligned action. Right? The aligned action is, when am I being a stand for you in your life? The unaligned action is when I allow you to do something to me that makes me not be a stand for you anymore. That's really what we're catching. So it's not precise, right? It's not a goal per se. It's a route of a journey. And there is never a way to get there. It's just who I am right now and right now and right now. It's a very in the present moment. Being love isn't something for me in 10 years. Being love is for me right now, and right now, and right now, and right now. And I don't know how to be love in 10 years because I don't know what there is. I can only control right now. So in that sense, it's not really a goal at all. It's a way of being right in this moment. I can't be love in the past. I can't be love in the future because they don't exist. But I can continually exude love right now. And I can check myself to make sure that right now I'm not allowing somebody else to drive me out of that alignment with that declaration. Right? So goals tend to be future oriented. This isn't future oriented. This is present oriented.
Okay, so what's the point of all of this?
Really to organize your life so that when you're going forward in your life, you're going forward in an aligned way. Like I said, with the example of the parent and child,
Yeah.
the idea isn't that you're perfect. The idea is that you're avoiding, it's not really avoiding, you're just not doing those things that are driving you out of alignment. So the example with the parent and the child, it's like, okay, who I am is a stand for you. And right now I'm not being a stand for you. To be able to catch yourself and go, yeah, right now I'm not being a stand for you. I'm being a stand for my anger. I'm being a stand for my stories from my parents. I'm being a stand for my cultural views so I can look good for other parents. I'm being a stand because I don't want to look bad in front of your teacher. That's what I'm doing. That's not about my child right now. That's not being loving. That's being worried about my status. It's about worried about fairness, how other people might perceive me in a fairness, my safety triggers. It's worried about all that other stuff. It has nothing to do with being love for my child in this moment. And then being able to say, okay, I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to push those other things out. How do I be love for my child right now? I mean, it's one example, but there's thousands. There's thousands of examples. That's just an easy one to show because we talked about love. So the whole point of this is that if you go through life and you're always being driven by all of these other things, the stories of my parents, the rules of the school, the worry about how society is going to see the things, blah, 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 blah. 10 years down the road, when you get there and your child is saying something and you're going, maybe I shouldn't have been like this. Maybe I shouldn't have been like that. It's all those shouldn'ts in the case of that tend to be because we didn't really follow who we were. We followed all this other stuff that had nothing to do with that. So the idea here is that at least 10 years in the future, you can go, you know what? I did the best I can. I'm sure I did the best I can. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes. Come on, this isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's not about living a perfect life. It's just about getting there and going, I really honestly did the best I can because I stayed aligned.